Good evening, everyone. If you please have your seat, I would like to welcome you to the Ferndale City Council meeting for Monday, March the 28th, 2011. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Certainly. Council members Baker. Here. Galloway. Here. Lennon. Here. Piana. Here. And Mayor Coulter.
Here. Thank you. Our first order of business is the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? I would like to make one. I would like to move consent agenda B, a resolution honoring Como's Restaurant, up to presentations. And I'd like to make that the first presentation so that Cecilia can get back to work. And I'd like to drop the first presentation from the police department down to the last presentation to give the police chief a little more time to get here this evening. Any other changes to the agenda? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
We'll need a motion.
I would move that we adopt the agenda as amended. Support.
That's been moved by Councilwoman Baker, supported by Piana.
Yeah.
Please call the roll.
Council members Baker.
Yes.
Galloway.
Yes.
Lennon.
Yes.
Piana.
Yes.
And Mayor Coulter.
Yes, thank you. That passes. We have a number of presentations this evening, and the first one I'm very honored and pleased to be able to present. And in order to do this, I'd like to have a couple of other folks join me as well. It is not easy when you are in the restaurant business to last a year, let alone 50 years. But we have an establishment in Ferndale that I know you're all very familiar with. It's been on the corner of 9 Mile and Woodward for 50 years now. And as I said the other day, on Friday, our Congressman, Sandy Levin, presented Cecilia and George with a flag that flew over the Capitol building in commemoration of the 50th. It's actually April 1st, right, Cecilia? Yes. And as I said on Friday, you know, you have to have great food and great service to be in business for 50 years, but I think it takes something else, too, and that is they're just part of the community. They're like a resident and a member of this community. They have supported us in so many ways, and in return, the residents have supported them. And so I have a resolution, and I understand that our state representative is here, and she has a resolution as well. I'd like to ask her to come up, and I'd also like to ask former mayors Bob Porter and Craig Covey to come up with me as well, because they've been instrumental in first putting this anniversary on my radar, but their involvement in Como's goes back many years. So if the three of you would come up, and I'd also like to ask Cecilia and your granddaughter if you would join us up on the platform as well.
Well, just real quick, the mayor is actually totally correct in that it's the food, it's the service, but in my opinion, it is the sense of family. When you go there, you feel comfortable. Everyone is welcome at Como's, and they were inclusive and diverse before it became fashionable to be inclusive and diverse. And so everyone is welcome at Ferndale or at Como's. It's one of my favorite places, and I think a bunch of us may even go there tonight after the meeting. So.
You know, one thing that still keeps me excited is when I put the word out, I'd heard from George that the 50th anniversary was coming up. And I talked to Dave, and we talked to Levin's office, and immediately they said, oh, it's Ferndale and the people, and yeah, we got to get behind them. I mean, that really excites me that feeling is still here. I just want to say that it was important for me because anytime I needed something, I had youth group meetings, one that were sprung on me and so forth, and here all of a sudden you've got 12 kids coming in and you've got to keep them focused. You could call George and say, I need a space, I need a pizza, I need whatever. He's, hey, it's community, don't worry, it'll be there. And it was there. That's the way they've always worked in our community. That's the way they've treated their city and cared about it. And I believe they, at this special time, as he mentioned, it's tough to keep a restaurant going 50 years. I don't care how good the economy is. They deserve any recognition they can get, and we want to thank them for their service in the community.
I want to first thank Bob Porter for through a conversation and told me about this joyous occasion, and so I prepared a tribute from the legislature, and I'll just read it. It's not too long, but it's a special tribute. And let it be known, it is with distinct pleasure that we recognize Como's Restaurant upon their 50th anniversary in downtown Ferndale. It is with great pride that we offer congratulations to owners and community partners George and Cecilia Grego. Since its opening in 1961 on the northeast corner of 9 Mile and Woodward Avenue, Como's has been an anchor in downtown Ferndale, hosting many patrons and employing hundreds of local residents. Como's is known throughout the region for their outstanding patio and fabulous Ferndale pizza. The Grego family is to be commended for their steadfast commitment to the betterment of the award-winning downtown Ferndale during its recent renovation and redevelopment. The Grego family and Como's Restaurant have shown tremendous generosity by supporting the local community and encouraging a welcome and diverse environment in Ferndale. This is evidenced by Como's many contributions of thousands of dollars in support over the years to many charitable groups, including AIDS Partnership Michigan, Michigan AIDS Coalition, Fans of Ferndale, and Ferndale Community Foundation. In special tribute, therefore, this document is signed and dedicated to congratulate George and Cecilia Grego of Como's Restaurant for 50 years of business and community support in Ferndale, Michigan. We are confident that the city of Ferndale and the larger community will continue to benefit from their generosity for years to come. And this is in tribute the 96th legislature at Lansing, Monday, March 28, 2011.
Let me just, Cecilia, we also have a resolution for you that's much longer, so I won't read it. You can applaud that. Suffice it to say, it says, we love you, we appreciate you, and we wish you 50 more years of business in Ferndale. So,
thank you very much for all the support. Thank you.
thank you.
Big sales on food during the anniversary, by the way.
Commissioner Covey, you might as well stay up there. I believe you are the next presentation on our agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council and staff. And as you know, I'm hoping to come to the meetings once a month to give an update from the County Commission as well as other projects I might be involved in. We have some really good news that came out last month, as you may know. Finally, I should say, we're pretty excited. The Oakland County Parks and Recreation Board has basically decided to invest in southern part of Oakland County. They are going to invest over $850,000 in Catalpa Park, which is in Southfield, improving all sorts of soccer fields and softball. It's a pretty major investment. We're pretty excited, and some of the county commissioners, as you know, worked very hard, Mayor Coulter, when you were a commissioner. Commissioner Zach, Commissioner McGillivray, Commissioner Woodward, all worked hard on that. So we're pretty excited that South Oakland County is getting that Parks and Rec investment.
Very much.
I'm also working, as you know, on bringing some Pride festivities to the city of Ferndale. I'll come to the April meeting and share what we have planned. It's pretty exciting. And working with Motor City Pride, we still expect on Friday, June 3rd, to bring several thousand people to Ferndale. And the whole weekend will be good for businesses and for our community. But we have one other surprise for you, Mr. Mayor, and we worked with the staff at Oakland County as well as city staff. But let me please ask I have 6 county commissioners here tonight who've come to see you and say hello. Come on up, commissioners.
I feel like I'm up in Pontiac.
Really, all 25 wanted to come, but we would have a quorum, and so we weren't allowed to do that. But I'm going to ask each one to say hello and say where you're from, who you are.
Gary McGilvery, Madison Heights, and a portion of Royal Oak and Troy.
Helene Zach, neighbor, Pleasant Ridge, Huntington Woods, Oak Park, Charter Township of Royal Oak, and the southeast tip of Southfield. Hi, Dave. Marcia Gershenson, Beverly Hills, Bingham Farms, Franklin, Southfield Township, portions of West Bloomfield, portions of Bloomfield Township, and our loss is your community's gain.
Janet Jackson, Lathrop Village, Berkeley, and the north end of Southfield. We're so proud of you, Dave.
Oh, thank you, Janet.
I'm Nancy Quarles, and I only have Southfield. It's good to see you, Dave.
Thank you, Nancy.
And I'm Tim Greimel. I represent Auburn Hills, part of Rochester Hills, and part of Pontiac.
Commissioner Greimel is also the head of the Democratic Caucus. Julia Ruffin is here from the county staff. And Dave, as I mentioned to you, when I got up there, people were all telling me how much they liked you, how much they appreciated you, what big shoes I had to fill. And so they wanted to come and say hi, and we did a proclamation for you as well, if I may read. Whereas the wealth of a community can be best measured by the extraordinary commitment of special individuals, such as Mayor David Coulter, whose talents and commitment to public service have benefited many people in Oakland County and in the city of Ferndale for many years. He has been instrumental in helping to build the southeastern portion of Oakland County and the city of Ferndale with his vision and determination. Whereas Oakland County has the privilege to honor one of its premier public officials, David Coulter, who is a former member of the Oakland County Board of Commissioners, serving from 2003 to 2010 in District 25, and is now appointed to the office of Mayor of the city of Ferndale. Whereas Mayor Coulter has dedicated his political career to promote the city of Ferndale and the district and its economic growth by focusing his energy to make the city a vibrant place to live, work, and play. He helped to advance the community's important and unique role in the development of the region in Oakland County and the metropolitan area. Now, therefore, I, Michael J. Gingell, who is the chair of the Oakland County Commission, with Commissioner Craig S. Covey and the entire Oakland County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim a commendation to Mayor David Coulter for his leadership, extraordinary accomplishments, and giving spirit. We extend our best wishes to you and your family, and wish you the very best in your new role as the mayor of the city of Ferndale. And it is signed by all 25 members of the county.
I'll come up and get it, Craig. Let me just say thank you. Those were 8 very special years of my life. You know, each and every one of you. I love you all. I love serving with you. And this is a wonderful surprise and very moving. Thank you guys so much.
And Dave, I want to add that, you know, you had been the leader of the Democratic caucus on the commission for 6 years of those 8 years. And I always admired the job that you did as chair of the caucus, which is not an easy job. And
discovering.
Well, I was just going to say, now that I'm chair of the Democratic caucus, I have an even greater appreciation for the wonderful job that you did in that position. And I knew that you would make a wonderful mayor of the city, and was delighted, of course, when you were sworn in and was here for that. But, of course, even in just I think it's just been 2 months since you were sworn in, and even in that short of time, from everything that I've heard, you've already made your presence felt in the city. People have already had tremendous respect for the job you've done, even in those just 2 very short months. So I'm not surprised, because I knew that it would be a relatively easy transition for you with the leadership that you showed on the county commission. But I just wanted to congratulate you again on being mayor, and thank you for all your service, both on the commission and here in the city.
Thank you very much. And I think Julia wants to get a picture, don't you? All right. I drew the photo. All right. Come on now, guys. Thanks to you guys. It's really nice. It's really sweet.
Just in time for his birthday. That's really cool. His birthday was last week.
A couple days, a couple of months.
You celebrated in the word of my art.
Yes.
I learned how to do that.
Thank you.
Folks, this is a great group of people, and they're working to represent the south part of Oakland County for you. So wish us all luck up there in Pontiac.
That was very, very kind. Thank you. Our next presentation is the Historical Society honoring the Chamber of Commerce, and I believe we have our former fire chief here with us. Oh, Frank as well. Hi, guys.
Mayor, Council, Mr. Chris, Mr. Walden Weber, we haven't met formally, but welcome to Ferndale.
Thank you.
I'm Roger Schmidt, President of the Ferndale Historical Society. With me is Frank Flores, who is the Vice President of the Historical Society. I guess this is a year of anniversaries. We are here to honor the Chamber of Commerce, and this is their 75th anniversary this year. And because we are the Historical Society, we feel compelled to give you a little history. So, to find the origins of the Ferndale Chamber of Commerce, you must go back to May 9th, 1916, when a small group of residents and businessmen met in the basement of Ferndale's Central School. As the Ferndale Boosters, they worked on a proposed charter for the future village of Ferndale when it would be incorporated in 1918. Once the village was established, the Boosters changed their name to the Board of Commerce. One of their many projects included the establishment of zoning in the village. When the Rotary and Exchange Clubs formed in 1924, the two groups took over many of the jobs formerly handled by the Board of Commerce. With the coming of the Great Depression, the board slowly faded away. But in 1936, as the economic recovery began and new businesses emerged, the Board of Commerce was reformed as an entirely new organization. In 1942, it became apparent that a full-time executive secretary was needed. Harvey S. Jacobs, owner and publisher of the Ferndale Gazette, was appointed. During World War II, the board was instrumental in shaping Ferndale's industrial efforts to help win the war. The Board of Commerce officially changed their name in 1965 to the Ferndale Chamber of Commerce. And then just last February, in 2010, they changed their name again to the Ferndale Area Board of Chamber of Commerce, and at the same time debuted a new logo. Back in 1986, the Chamber celebrated its 50th anniversary, and in an excerpt from her message to the members, then President Virginia L. Cox said, "In numbers lies strength, in unity the accomplishment of purpose. By joining together within the structure of the Chamber, business people are afforded an invaluable opportunity to pool their talents and resources to work for the common good and well-being of our business community. Through our Chamber of Commerce, we have the power to create a strong and economically prosperous future for ourselves and for those who will follow in our footsteps." And I think her message is still true today. The current mission statement for the Chamber reads as follows: "The Ferndale Area Chamber of Commerce supports the interests of the businesses and the community through dynamic member-driven partnerships and activities." And at this time, we'd ask Jennifer Rosenberg, who is the executive director, and Jerome Raska, who is the chairman of the board, to come up, and we have a little plaque for them. Frank will present it.
Jennifer and JR, we have a plaque here, and it says it's here for 75 years of your dedicated service in the city of Ferndale. This is presented to the Ferndale Chamber of Commerce from 1936 to 2011. This is presented by our director, Gary Andrews, of the Historical Society, president, and myself and officers. Again, thank you very much.
Oh, absolutely. I never turned down a microphone.
Please, Jerome, I didn't think I had to invite you.
I just want to say on behalf of the Ferndale Area Chamber of Commerce, much like some of the verbiage that was already shared with you, the strength lies within the people. And I always refer to the Chamber and the history of the Chamber being 75 years is that any house, if it's going to stay strong, has to be built on a strong foundation. And that's what we really credit the strength of our Chamber today, is the past, the people that have served before us, the people that have dedicated their time and their energies to the Ferndale Area Chamber of Commerce and really brought it to where we are today. As we all know, the business community has changed drastically. We have people that work from home. We have people that simply work off the internet. And I'm sure 75 years ago, these fine folks would just kind of roll their eyes had they known all this was going to occur. So, but yet it's with their strong structure that they set forth that we continue to build on today that makes us as strong as we are and continue to be strong, and we hope to be here for another 75. So thank you from the Historical Society. We appreciate it very much, and to the entire Ferndale community. The Chamber is the people, and we appreciate all their support. Thank you. I also want to not forget to mention that the Chamber is represented this evening by several board members. If I could have them all quick stand. There's many of them here this evening. They dedicate a lot of time. And, of course, our Executive Director, Jennifer, who is our hidden jewel. So we like to keep her hidden behind closed doors. So. Thank you.
I would like to ask the council if they can entertain a motion or set up a resolution for them also tonight, if not next week or whenever possible. So thank you.
And thank you to the Historical Society for making that resolution, and we wish the Chamber 75 more strong years. Thank you.
We'll turn in the information to
Sherilyn, that would be great.
Tonight.
Thank you, Frank. Very nice. The next presentation is by the Downtown Development Authority. Hi, guys.
Hi. I know they're getting organized, so I will kind of start for people who don't know me. Hello.
Good evening.
I'm Veronica Lujic, chair of the Downtown Ferndale. What we have here is earlier this month there was a Main Street, Oakland County held a banquet. And they do this every year, and what they do is they honor downtowns. There are 12 that are in the Oakland County program, the Main Street program. And what they like to recognize is they recognize for history, for saving history, for creating contributions to the economic stability and the thriving business center. And what I like to think that all these awards represent is the great partnerships that we've created over the years, not just with Main Street, Oakland County and Oakland County's support, but the city, DPW, all the businesses, the DDA, and all our volunteers. So this is a representation of hundreds of people working. So I just want you to picture that. Everybody's working together. So here we go. Okay, so one of the first things I would like to mention is that Ferndale was recognized by Oakland County for becoming Main Street's Shining Star in 2010 with the Great American Main Street Award, which acknowledged 10 years of growth and transformation in the downtown Ferndale area. And today, downtown Ferndale encompasses 3.9 miles, which has 75% been renovated or restored, and the vacancy rates are holding at around 6%, which is incredible when you look at what's happening around. And it's also home to 350 businesses plus, which is quite a few. So we're looking at this first award, which is for outstanding private-public partnerships and outstanding public improvement projects, which is the pedestrian alley. What once served as a front door to Ferndale School in the mid-20s, it turned into a utility alley where there was dumpsters and grease bins, and has once returned to serving the public's greater good. This unique collaboration between public and private ownerships, guided by vision of best use, resulted in an overhaul of the backdoor alley to a thriving pulse point for pedestrian interaction. We are proud of the collaborative efforts of this project with Foley Mansfield, the city, DPW, and the DDA. The second award is Outstanding Preservation Success Stories, which goes to Foley and Mansfield. And which is Jonah Berger. Jonna. We just met, yes, and we did. And they told me, just remember, you're right, you should have wrote it phonetically. But anyway, with its original grace restored and 7,000 square feet addition, consistent with preservation building practices, this former underutilized 1915 state historic designated building is preservation at its best. The original schoolhouse brick, wood beams and flooring, Quabic tile. I'm sorry, I gotta turn the page. With modern loft-style sustainability features, including a fitness center, a green roof overlooking the city. After investing over $5 million, Foley Mansfield completed its renovation and expansion of the historical building, which contributed to the revitalization of East 9. Foley Mansfield not only brought about the original allure of the historic structure, but also reinvigorated East 9 with over 40 new employees and intensification of use, all adding a positive economic and social impact to downtown Ferndale. The next award is for Outstanding New Construction, which is the Lofts on the Nine. Once a dilapidated auto repair facility called Stop and Go on the corner of East 9 and Bermuda has literally transformed the life, activity, environment, walkability, and livability of downtown Ferndale. It has spurred a rebirth on the east side of 9 Mile. Lofts on 9 not only deserves this award for their persistence, patience, and guts of building a product during the worst economic climate, but because of their resourcefulness to figure out how to make it work with a changing market and with the vision for downtown and their commitment to the community. Bob Wilson is actually not here, so. But Jack is listening. Yay! No, he has it. Yeah. So, the outstanding downtown investment went to Rosie O'Grady's and Brian Kramer. Built in 1939, 279 West 9 changed hands and faces over a course of the last 70 years. It was a grocery store, it was Sam's Jams, it was art supply, it was eyeglass factory, and it had a small retail presence and a small workforce. I think it was less than 10 employees. After $3.5 million investment, the building now showcases its history through the preservation of basket weave brick and limestone, maintaining the public art on the side of the building that was installed in previous years, and restoring things such as skylights and rafters on the inside. The night and day transformation of this building has directly improved the economy of downtown Ferndale while keeping with local design standards and goals. It is a perfect example of teamwork that tells a story of how good economic development initiatives can impact the quality of life and the vitality of a downtown. And Brian's not here, so. Right. And the last award we have here goes to Dino, who is here. Yay! He is Main Street. He is Business of the Year, Dino's Restaurant and Lounge. Ooh. When patrons enter Dino's Lounge and Restaurant and Lounge, they feel like they just walked into Dean's home In many ways, they have. Dean opened his upscale, but not uptight, lounge in 2002, and since then has consistently delivered a perfect combination of good food, good beverages, good service, and good times. Most nights, Dean or his wife, Denise, are the party host, revving up the karaoke or the live band. Dean chose downtown Ferndale for his business because the community had a great core of support and was ripe for a resurgence. Locals are thrilled because once you know Dean, you want him to be a part of every plan. And Ferndale DDA is happy to know that he usually is. Do you have something you'd like to add? I'd like one over the pictures. Okay.
But we did want, because of the pedestrian alley being a partnership, we wanted to make sure that we presented the City of Ferndale with the award for the partnership so that you can display it here at City Hall. These are beautiful awards. They have a parabotic tile inlaid in the center. Oakland County does a wonderful job, and although the commissioners have left, I did want to say that we have to thank Oakland County for starting up the Main Street program, because that is what has laid our foundation for how to revitalize a downtown. So for us to win these awards is just, it's an amazing feeling when you're there, because there's hundreds of people in the room that are in awe and inspired by everything that we do, as well as we're inspired by them as well. So it's a great time, and I hope that each year we keep coming back with more, and hopefully more of you can share with us in the awards ceremony in the future. So with that, we'll turn the yes.
Are we going to do a photo? Which one is the city? This is the city. All right. Thanks, Tim. Over there. I want to get everybody in. Okay, that's it. I got it. Okay. All right, looking good. Lots of photo ops tonight. Thank you. One more. Everybody say DDA. DDA. All right. Thank you. Thanks, That's hard. Well done, DDA. Those are very competitive awards, and to have the Business of the Year and all the other awards you won, again, great job to our DDA. Police Department Life Saving Award. I believe our police chief is here now to present an award to a very brave and deserving and hardworking officer. So, Chief.
Thank you, Your Honor. I apologize for this is the first thing on the agenda, and I had another community meeting I was at, so I was just a little bit late. Typically I'd like to meet them before we start, but is Mr. Matthew Rosnowski here? Could you come up here, please, sir? Mr. Rosnowski is a parole agent for the state. I apologize for not speaking to you before, but I had another engagement. I'd like to advise everyone that we have a tradition that we've been keeping up with, that our Citizens Awards we like to give in public. We like to do them as soon as possible. Mr. Rosnowski, we felt that this is doesn't qualify as a Citizen Award. We would like to actually give him the same award that we would give a active duty officer on the police department. That is because it was an outstanding job that he did on the 14th of March of this year at approximately 8:30 in the morning. Agent Rosnowski was doing a routine check at a house, checking on one of his charges, and knocked on the door of a residence on West Hazelhurst Street and got no response. He continued to knock, thought the individual may be asleep. Finally, an elderly woman did answer the door. It was quite apparent that the house was on fire. There was a fire in the kitchen. This woman was somewhat disoriented. She was trying to put the fire out herself. She was using a mop. The mop had started on fire. The kitchen was completely engulfed. Mr. Rosnowski, at his own peril, went into the house, tried to convince this elderly woman to exit the house. As the fire got worse and worse, He did convince her to leave. He got her to the front porch, at which time he called 911. The fire department arrived. They did whatever the fire department does in cases like that. Whatever. But long story short, this gentleman here saved a human life. We believe that that deserves a great deal of recognition by the community. We would like to do that for him this evening and present him with our life-saving award and our deepest appreciation. Thank you.
My girlfriend probably won't agree with me at this point, but I'm kind of at a loss for words. It's a first for me. I just want to say it's an honor to work for the Michigan Department of Corrections, which gives me the daily opportunity to help serve and protect the citizens of Oakland County. So thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Chief, for bringing that forward. That concludes presentations, except that I do see the mayor from our neighboring city of Hazel Park here. And Mayor Lloyd, if there's anything, if you wanted to say anything this evening, this would be a great time to do it. Otherwise, you're welcome to sit.
No, I just feel honored to be here with you and with the presence of all these awards and outstanding accomplishments from all places of business. And it's just outstanding. I'm glad I had an opportunity to be here. Congratulations.
Well, we're glad you're here. We have a great partnership with our sister city to the east, Hazel Park, and always great to see you, Mayor. Thanks. All right, next order of business is public hearing, and there are 4 parts to this public hearing. Part A, consideration of objections to Class C liquor license renewals, 3, Eden Nightclub, Nami Sushi, and the Post Bar. Dan, do you want to?
I'd be happy to introduce that item, Mayor. My understanding is that there are 2 establishments, Eden Nightclub and Post Bar, where there is going to be a scheduled public hearing this evening. Nami Sushi apparently has corrected its issue. The Michigan Liquor Control Act provides that on-premises license holders, those licenses expire on April 30th of each year, and local legislative bodies have an opportunity to object to the renewal of those licenses. The City of Ferndale has adopted certain resolutions that set forth the criteria that it looks to for its license holders, and the resolutions have been provided to all the license holders. Those criteria include the payment of real estate taxes, and maintenance with all codes of the City of Ferndale, and for Eden Nightclub, there is an issue that they're not in compliance with the city's. The city administration believes that the establishment is not in compliance with the city's resolution. So a notice of the public hearing has been provided to the license holder, and this would be an opportunity to set, for purposes of the record, what the violation of the resolution is, and the license holder would have an opportunity, along with the public, to address council should council wish to pass a resolution of non-renewal. I would, before the public has an opportunity to speak, I would just ask Ms. Tallman whether you're familiar with the delinquent accounts for the City of Ferndale.
I am indeed.
And did you have an opportunity to review whether the taxes for Eden Nightclub are delinquent?
Yes, real and personal property taxes are delinquent as of this date in the amount of $20,552.34.
Okay, and that's as of today's date?
As of today's date.
Okay. Is the license holder with respect to Eden Nightclub here?
I should mention, I'm still getting used to this mayor's gig, but this public hearing is officially called to order. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Councilman, Mayor.
Good evening.
City Attorney. My name is Aubrey Tobin. I represent and I'm the owner of Eden Nightclub. It's actually Posh Entertainment, doing business as Eden Nightclub. And it's our my third year in front of you, asking you for additional time to pay the taxes. We are delinquent. We have paid some of them. And I was looking at my notes from 2009, whereby the council was gracious enough to allow us to enter into an agreement whereby we paid a significant amount of taxes prior to April 30th and the balance by May 31st, with the proviso that if we weren't able to do that, that the license would go into escrow, immediately into escrow. And simply we're asking if we can do that again, if that would be permissible. We'd like to do it. We have not been able to raise all the money. It's been a very difficult year, and it's not getting better. And I'm quite amazed to see other people wanting to transfer licenses. That's coming up before you next, but it's just the nature of the business. So,
Your Honor, on that point, before council and included in your material is a proposed resolution which would request non-renewal of the license for Eden Nightclub for Posh Entertainment, Inc., doing business as Eden Nightclub, on the basis that it is not in compliance with the council's resolution as it relates to payment of real estate taxes. In the past, council has passed a resolution to that effect, and where the deficiency or delinquency has been cured prior to the April 30th date, council has, at a subsequent meeting, provided an amended resolution rescinding the non-renewal. So that is an option for council, which would provide the license holder some additional time.
But he's indicating that it's not the April 30th, but you're looking for a May 31st, or?
Yes, Mayor. Well, that's what we did 2 years ago. In 2009, we had a written agreement that Mr. Christ and I had worked out, and we were able to do it at the very last minute. What I'm suggesting is that we get at least half of the majority paid before the actual deadline, the April 30th. Actually, probably would be able to do that within the next 2 weeks, and the balance on or before the 31st of May. And again, with the proviso, the same agreement that we did in 2009, suggesting that if that did not occur, the license would be voluntarily put into escrow.
Are there questions or comments from council?
The amount for payment, I'm sorry, you suggested is half? Is that the most you can come up with?
Yes. Yes. I actually think we owe more than $20,552, but I'll go with that number. I think personal property taxes are somewhere around $5,000 alone. And I know we have paid, maybe that's because we paid some of the smaller bills.
Your Honor, if I could, just on the subject, it seems that consideration of any agreement may be premature. That could certainly happen at either of the council meetings in April, but based on the record this evening, it might be appropriate for council to consider the resolution objecting to the renewal. And while I do recall the issue of an amendment and an agreement being in place, we don't have that document for council's consideration this evening. That could be on council's agenda at either of the April meetings and still allow for the establishment to continue to operation should council decide to enter into such an agreement.
And Dan, because we have until April 30th to object to the state, correct?
You have until May 31st to object to the state.
To the state. Okay, so we wouldn't be relinquishing any of that right?
Not if you consider the resolution and adopt the resolution as proposed.
Other comments? Yes.
Even though there's a March 31st date in the resolution?
Yeah, you're objecting currently. That has to be sent to the Liquor Control Commission by the 31st. The license doesn't expire until the end of April.
Okay.
So you're suggesting that even if we were amenable to making the agreement that he offers, tonight's appropriate action would be to recommend rejection of it, knowing that we could bring it back in April?
Correct, because otherwise you miss the time.
That's right.
Or you don't have to.
That's right. Right.
There's a timing issue that you would otherwise forego the opportunity to object.
Any other comments or questions from council?
Well, I've got a question for the Chair, Dan. Dan, this is the third year we've done this, and I think it's always received unanimous votes, and I don't know what folks are inclined to do this year, but it seems to me that a lot of staff time gets tied up in this, doing extra review and extension of time. Are we able to tack those costs on to the bill here?
That it's something that can be looked at with respect to any type of agreement that may be brought back for council. I don't think there's a specific criteria of the council's resolution that would contemplate such charge, but that's something that could be considered in discussing it with the establishment.
I mean, at the very least, it seems that if you pay your bills 2 months late anywhere else, you get hit with some sort of late fee or administrative fee. You know, again, I suspect we'll probably approve this or encourage the city attorney to work out some sort of deal, but we really got to bring this to an end. We either got to get the bill, you know, we got to get the things paid on time so that we're not tied up working on all this stuff with staff time. So we want to see a business stay in business, and we want to collect the tax revenue and see you be successful, but I think we need to bring this to some sort of better conclusion for next year. So I would move that we adopt the resolution recommending against renewal of Posh Entertainment Incorporated doing business as Eden Nightclubs Class C liquor license, and direct the city attorney and the representative for the corporation to discuss alternative payment measures and direct the city attorney to consider as part of that cost recovery for expenses incurred by the city.
Support.
There's a motion by Galloway, supported by Lennon. Any other additional comments or questions?
If I could,
yes.
Your Honor, I don't believe the public has had an opportunity to weigh in on this particular establishment, so I think I want to make sure that should anybody wish to address council with respect to this particular matter, they have that opportunity.
Thank you, Dan. Is there anyone in the public that would like to address this, the issue of this liquor license? Not seeing any. Yeah. So that closes the public hearing, Dan? I'm learning. All right. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Council members Galloway?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Baker? Yes. And Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. That item passes. Our next public hearing is related to the transfer ownership of escrowed class.
Your Honor, just there is one second establishment that is delinquent as it relates to S&J Post, Inc.
That's correct.
And briefly, just for purposes of the record, that also is delinquent with respect to some of the obligations owed to the city. And Ms. Tallman, you've had an opportunity to review the records, financial records with respect to that establishment?
That's correct, Your Honor. And again, that is real and personal property taxes outstanding in the amount of $12,303.21.
I did, Your Honor, have an opportunity also to provide a notice of this public hearing with respect to that license holder. I'm not sure whether there's anybody on behalf of the licensee who's here in the audience that may wish to address council on that matter.
Is there anyone here from the audience from representing Post Bar or this license? Not seeing anyone.
Should anyone from the public wish to?
Yeah. So it would be appropriate if anyone from the public who would like to address the issue of the liquor license at the Post Bar, this would be the time to do so. Not seeing anyone. Council, this would be appropriate for council to ask questions or comments?
It's my understanding the Post has closed their doors, I believe, on Saturday. How would that affect this, Dan?
Well, I don't know what their intent is, whether it's temporary closure or not, but it really shouldn't sway council with respect to its consideration of delinquency and consideration of the proposed resolution.
Okay.
So at this point, a motion would be in order?
I don't have it.
However, I can't make one. That much I know.
I have it.
You got it?
Yeah. No, I lied. I don't have
I got it.
All right. Councilman Lennon.
I move that the Ferndale City Council hereby formally objects to the renewal of the Class C liquor license for 2011 for S&J Post Incorporated doing business as the Post Bar, 22-828 and 22-830 Woodward Avenue. Ferndale.
Is there support? Moved by Lennon, supported by Baker. Any further comments or questions? Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Council members Lennon?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, that passes. Thank you very much. Our next item is a public hearing regarding the transfer of ownership of an escrowed Class C licensed business with entertainment permit located at 201 West 9 Mile Road from Jonassy LLC to Oakland Sugar House LLC. Is there anyone here representing the parties involved? Yes, sir. Please come forward. How are you, sir?
Good. My name is Sandy Levine, representing the Oakland Sugar House. What we are doing, the space was Nami Sushi. We're going to be doing a craft cocktail bar. So it's going to be a very laid-back, old-style cocktail lounge, lounge seating, Prohibition-era cocktails. A lot of the newer bars in New York and Chicago have been doing classic cocktails from that era. So I spent a couple of years in Chicago and became kind of obsessed with a couple of these bars. So my wife and I, this is our first ownership, but I've been in the restaurant business for over 20 years and excited about doing this.
Questions from council? Councilwoman Piana.
Yes, please. It says that there's delinquent personal property taxes in the amount of $883.
My understanding is that that has been taken care of. I've talked to the owner of the building.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
That is true.
I have just one question, and it's purely out of curiosity. As soon
What's
as
in a Harvey Wallbanger? No.
I saw the name of the corporation, and I wondered, are you guys affiliated with the Sugar House on Michigan Avenue?
No, actually, I know the owner, and we spoke a couple of, I don't know, maybe about a year and a half ago. And at the time, neither of us had discussed names. And basically, it's a reference to a speakeasy that was in Detroit. And after, I'd filed all the paperwork, we kind of found out that we were both, using a very similar name. So I will be doing business as the Oakland. And the bar on Michigan is going to be called the Sugar House Bar. So hopefully there won't be too much.
But your establishment will be called?
The Oakland.
The Oakland.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Will there be food?
No, not at first. I may do it down the road. But for, at the beginning, it's just going to be maybe like popcorn or nuts or something like that, some sort of finger food, but no real food menu.
Councilman Galloway.
Was this required to go through the Liquor License Review Board? And if so, did it? Cities review? No, that's not so it's not inter-county transfer, so it's exempt from that, right?
It just went through the city's process.
Right. It was approved by the police chief. I noticed we have information in our packet that you've talked to the police chief and all of that stuff, and you promised to be a good citizen and all of those things.
Absolutely.
You ready for a motion? Yep.
We're ready for a motion, then.
I would move to approve a transfer of ownership for the escrowed Class C liquor license located at 201 West 9 Mile from Jonassy LLC to Oakland Sugar House LLC. And that's it.
Support.
Moved by Baker, supported by Piana. Any other questions or comments?
Welcome to Ferndale.
Thanks very much.
Welcome to Ferndale. Good luck to you. Yes, Madam
No, we
Chair.
haven't voted yet.
Please call the roll.
Council members Piana?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, that passes. Thank you. And again, welcome to Ferndale. We hope you do very well here. Public hearing, item C is transfer ownership of escrowed Class C licensed business with dance entertainment permit located at 141 West 9 Mile from 6 Events LLC to 141 Associates LLC. Is there anyone here representing those parties? And I believe I see Mr. Perlman here. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Thomas Perlman. If you recall, I sold this business about a year and a half ago. Unfortunately, The purchasers closed and bailed. This process tonight is for me to get the license back in order to resell it. That has actually already been accomplished, and that transfer will be before you in the very near future. But again, this is in order for me to be able to resell the license. I will not operate, and the license will remain in escrow until the new purchaser receives it.
And to be clear, we're talking about what was formerly the 9 nightclub,
Correct.
right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Any questions from council? Anyone from the public who would like to address the transfer of this liquor license?
I move to approve a transfer of ownership for the escrowed Class C liquor license located at 141 West 9 Mile Road from 6 Events LLC to 141 Associates LLC. Support.
Moved by Baker, moved by Piana, supported by Baker. Are there any other questions or comments from council? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Baker?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you very
Good
much.
luck. Our final public hearing tonight is the transfer of ownership of a Class C liquor license with dance entertainment permit located at 22930 Woodward from Three Trees Incorporated to 22930 Woodward LLC. Is there anyone here representing any of those parties? Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, and welcome. You're doing a great job.
Welcome to you. Thanks.
Members of the council, I'm Kelly Allen here tonight on behalf of 22930 Woodward LLC. This is the business known as Bosco, currently operating as Bosco. With me tonight is Jay Noonchester. He's a 49% owner, and the other partner is not here. His name is Malik Muhammad. We have submitted quite a bit of information actually to the city. They have met with the police department, and I believe the police chief has recommended approval. It's really kind of a cool concept. It's going to be called Sugar Dessert Lounge and Rock Bar. They're adding a dessert prep kitchen, and they've got a really neat menu, including all types of carrot cakes and lovely, you're probably hungry, lovely chocolate cakes and peanut butter Snickers pie and all sorts of things. So they will be a full-service lounge in addition to the desserts, and they're really going to just give the establishment a facelift, including the outdoor service area. Jay's got a lot of experience in this industry. He's worked at Crave and Dearborn. He's worked at this establishment, and he's also in the marketing end of the restaurant and bar and restaurant industry. So he will be the operating partner. Mr. Malik is just the money guy, and all the money did come from his personal savings, which has been investigated. The LCC is done, the LCC investigator, and we are asking for your approval of the transfer tonight.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments of council? Is there anyone from the public that would like to address the transfer of this liquor license?
I guess I've got a question.
Yeah.
Ms. Allen, some time ago, both the Bosco and the Magic Bag shared a liquor license. Then they both got their own liquor license. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And there's going to be no passageway in between the two or is that going to, how's it?
State law requires that there be permits to have those two connected. They're called direct connection permits, but they each have their own license. They're operating independently. It's just because they butt up against each other, and you can get in and out through the restaurants that you need to have those permits. But you're correct, there are two licenses.
Okay. Thanks.
Madam Clerk, call the roll.
I think we need a motion.
Oh.
I would move to approve a transfer of ownership for the Class C liquor license located at 22930 Woodward Avenue from Three Trees, Inc. to 22930 Woodward LLC.
Support.
Moved by Baker, supported by Piana. Any further comments or questions of council? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Galloway?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, that passes. Welcome to town and good luck with your new business. Thanks. All right, our next item of business is call to audience. As I think folks know, call to audience is up to 30 minutes now and more time if needed at the end of the meeting, where people are free to talk about anything that's not on the agenda tonight. We'll have an opportunity to talk about that at that portion of the agenda. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. and state your name and address. We are starting at 8:30. Frank, how are you?
Yes, good evening again. A little more about our historical museum that I want to give you some updates. First of all, this past winter or fall, we put a new face to our museum. I don't know if you have been there, but we used to have a museum there with green shutters and a yellow door. Anybody looking for the museum, they say, look for the yellow door next to the building next to the fire station. Well, we put a new face again from the volunteers of the society. We have new colors now to add in. Also, we added a new sign which can be visible from 9 Mile down to Livernois. And the sign itself says Ferndale Historical Society. And the sign has been dedicated to, if you recall, our longtime member, Raymond H. White, that passed away this past summer. So it's been dedicated to him. Also, I want to mention is there's something new. You probably seen in your packet this afternoon. Is we got a flyer now. We're going to be passing. We got the flyers available. It's going to give you all the vital information you need. We passed them out and put them in certain locations. City Hall has them. The library has them. Chamber of Commerce. And I believe that's the places that if you want to see, also the community center, can't leave those out. And on this flyer here, we have our phone number, our website, our hours. We open 3 days a week, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Monday and Wednesday, Saturdays from 1 to 4, or by appointment. We include everything in here for the purpose of the resident, what we're all about, our short history. We encourage everyone to be there. And finally, I would say that I wanted to mention that this past winter, we elected our new officers for 2011. As you know, that our former fire chief and president now, Roger Schmidt, that was here earlier, myself as vice president. Our recording secretary is our director. Gary Andrews is the intern, but we do have a Travis as our recording secretary. Our treasurer is Gary Andrews himself. Our correspondent secretary and historian is Jeannie Spring. And again, our director and curator is Gary Andrews. Seems like he's got a lot of time to do plenty of work, which we all. Our newsletter, which you see every month, every quarterly that we have put out, is done by Jeannie Spring and a few other volunteers that come out. Our membership, housing, records, and historian is Lynn Pruden. Our board of directors are Dan Hardo, Lisa Hardo, Chris Coe, and David Langu. Our trustees is Phyllis Hill, and yours truly are, as we put our liaison, city manager. You are now part of our gang here, but it has been put in our bylaws that we communicate both ways with our city manager, Mr. Wallenberg. We welcome you, and we'd like you again to come on by and see the new stuff that we have put. And I know you're a lifetime member, Mr. Mayor. And one thing we want to say is that we hopefully get some support from you to help our museum grow and grow. As you recall, Katie, we are trying to get some exposure, not only through our city, but through the county itself. I attended the conference that was held out at Troy for the Historical Society, for the Michigan Preservation Historical Society, our conference there, a 2-day conference. We set up a nice booth, and Katie was out there with her Wayne State Press, Councilwoman Katie. So we appreciate every effort. Again, people, these are available for the taking to come on down and see what tremendously our volunteers have done.
Thanks,
Thank
Frank.
you.
Keep up the great work. Thanks, Frank. Good evening.
Good evening. Mayor, City Council. My name is Jackie Smith, and I'm a resident and business owner here in Ferndale, and I'm actually a volunteer here in Ferndale in a couple of different aspects, and I've been spending the past about 7 months doing a lot of listening. I was on the Finance Committee, the Citizens Finance Committee, and I went on that committee with a lot of trepidation and a lot of groaning because I wasn't sure if there was any solutions coming up for our financial crisis that we're in. And it just seems like with all the listening that I'm doing, the financial crisis keeps getting bigger and bigger. And the many months, I think, with all the people on the Finance Committee, we put over 1,000 hours into listening and reading and researching. And we listened with our eyes, we listened with our ears, and some of us listened a lot with our mouths. But we learned way more than we ever wanted to about city finance. And one of the things we learned is that, number one, Ferndale is in probably the best condition than most Oakland County cities or Wayne County cities or Macomb County cities with this financial crisis coming up. Even though there's been a lot of critique, and some of it has come from me on some of the spending that the City Council has done for the past several years, our city is in really great shape. And even though the census says that we have lost citizens, we've actually grown as a community. And the issue that's on the table right now is, do we pass this Headley override on May 3rd? And I have to say, when I first got on the Finance Committee, I was not for it, because I felt that there was more cutting we could do, there was more revenue we could raise by being more efficient. And then after reviewing the cuts that the city has done and the efforts the city has taken to raise more revenue by efficiency, you've done your job. I know a lot of people have not read the statistics of what you've done or looked at all of the pieces and parts that you have put together very diligently, and it's overwhelming in the amount of reading that we did. I've also done a lot of listening to.
You're close to 3 minutes.
Okay, I've done a lot of listening to communities that are on the same situation and what they've lost. So I'm going to say vote yes on this, because our investment is today. We have a history of investment, and for Ferndale, and if we don't do that, the consequences are pretty dire. It's scarier not to than it is to say yes, and just start listening. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeannie. Good evening.
Good evening. Jeannie Davis. And usually I'm all bubbly and cute, but tonight I'm pissed. I got this in the mail, and it came in an envelope marked City of Ferndale Official Business Urgent. So I opened it up, and it's a flyer for the vote no on the Headley Override Amendment. So I went through it, and I found so many falsities. For instance, do the math, a 38% tax increase, it's closer to 11%. When he said do your own math, he slotted in a home with a taxable value of $125,000. That's not right, because a taxable value, you double it to get market value. So now we're talking about a $250,000 house. I think most of the people voting on the Headley Amendment, safe to say, do not have $250,000 houses. In actual fact, the tax would come to about $175 a year, $14.50 a month. So I went to this guy's blog, and the first thing I see in the blog is, which one of you, Melanie or Kate, spent $450,000 on office furniture? Because that's what he's got in the blog. And you don't even have offices.
I haven't seen my office yet.
I just don't even, I didn't read that much further. It's just outrageous. Then he's interviewed in the Tribune, and he says that there were 1,000 foreclosures in the city of Ferndale last year. Mike McConnell, who did the interview, checked with the city community development director. He said there were 300, and 14 of those people are working out payment plans. So I'm looking at this that came in the official City of Ferndale urgent thing, and I'm reading the blog and I'm reading the interviews, and I'm really kind of insulted. This was aimed at seniors. It came at the same time as my absentee ballot. I don't know if he thinks we're that dumb that we're going to just take this at face value, but I'm urging everybody to vote yes. I know I am, and I took the time to look at the facts first. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeannie. Good evening, Will.
Hey, good evening, Mayor Coulter and Council. I'd like to announce that Wolfman Mac from Television's Chiller Drive-In will be making his final appearance in the city of Ferndale at American Pop, Ferndale's only collectible and nostalgia shop. He'll be bringing some special cast and crew, and you might even see Torg, the giant robot from Santa Claus versus the Martians. We will have drinky drinks for the adults, complimentary, and beverages and treats for your little monsters. And Mac will be autographing some cool, one-of-a-kind props from his late-night monster show on the weekends. And he will be there Friday, April 1st at 8 p.m. sharp till midnight, and this will coincide with our official going out of business sale. We're going to do a whopping 75% off starting at 8 o'clock sharp on Friday. We've got vintage goods, vintage board games, retro toys, comic books, records, vintage furniture, a lot of cool stuff, including Detroit and Ferndale historical memorabilia. So that's a whopping 75% off, complimentary beverages, Wolfman Mac, and some special guests Friday, April 1st, 8 p.m. till midnight. Thank you.
Thank you, Will. Thanks. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Council and Mayor. I've been here before. My name is Katie Hirschberger, 750 West Maplehurst. I need to steal a phrase from Chief Schmidt's presentation about the Chamber of Commerce, and that is unity of purpose. This community in this city has had a unity of purpose of growth over the last decade. And that is what has made us a vibrant, alive, and cool city. And we need to pass the millage in order to maintain as much of that as possible in economic times that we are not in control of. If we don't pass the millage, I know that there's going to have to be cuts somewhere. I don't know who it's going to affect the most, who it's going to affect the least, but it's going to affect every citizen in this city. And anybody who doesn't believe it, vote no, and you'll find out. I truly do believe that in order to maintain our growth and our vibrancy and all the good things that we are here for, we need to pass the millage. I do have one question. If the millage is passed, will the city be able to enact the SAFER grant and bring back 4 firemen? And that is my question.
That's not a simple
We
answer,
don't know.
but I'm going to let the city manager take the first crack at that.
Well, clearly, there are issues and costs associated with accepting the grant and conditions, unlike those that were mentioned. I think at the last meeting, one of the fire union folks correctly pointed out that the International Association of Firefighters had worked with the Department of Labor and Homeland Security to cure some of what used to be conditions, and they got several of those reduced. For example, it used to have a matching component. There's some other things like that. But certainly, there are really 2 components to the acceptance of the grant. One, there's a penalty provision if we're to accept it and then later have to lay folks off. And that would clearly be the case were the millage not to pass. I mean, we're just, from our budget discussions, we talk 20 to 25 people based on the loss of revenue. Somewhere in that is where we'd be short, and that would be a combination of folks. We're yet to outline that, but the successful passage of the millage will clearly make it much more possible to consider that, and we've got that general concurrence from Homeland Security and the conditions on the grant that so we miss a few weeks of payments. But I think that it would be clear that it's still under consideration. It would be under strong consideration should the millage pass, but should it not pass, it would be, as was mentioned earlier, impossible to bring someone back now to lay them off, May, June, whatever that would work out to be. Plus, there are additional costs associated with bringing someone back and laying them off, such as unemployment comp, the COBRA associated with the benefits involved that would make our costs even more at that point.
If the millage passes, would it be possible to use the SAFER grant to bring back, say, 2 firemen and then not be in a position where we might have to lay one of them off or 2 of them off?
All those would certainly be...
I mean, could you pick the numbers rather than just automatically be the 4?
Yes, could do that. That's, I believe, possible under the grant conditions as I saw them, but it certainly would be much more possible to, and more likely to be able to be recommended should the millage pass.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Good evening.
Hi, everybody. Keith Dalton, 3036 Horton. I'm here tonight to support the Yes to Ferndale campaign. I stand here before you broke, and like many of you watching at this moment in time, the Dalton family cannot tell you where our increase, what pocket it will come from. But I do know with certainty at this moment in our city, state, and country's history that the local municipalities now and forever in the future will stand or fall on their own and alone. So we must provide that what that we require. We will live and or possibly die by the decision the citizens of Ferndale now collectively must make. Others have and will speak informatively about the required cuts and the what and the where the budget is going to be gutted. I would like us all to consider a larger point, and that is there is no do-over. If we collectively do not do the responsible thing now by voting yes and keeping our city continuing the service levels that we maintain at present, if this proposal fails and we let people go and close down long-standing agreements, it will cost much more to rehire and rebuild. No matter how quickly we change our minds, and we would, the damage would be done, and it's much more expensive to repair and to rebuild an organization than it is to maintain and contain an organization. So I ask all the citizens of Ferndale, please vote yes this special election Tuesday, May 3rd. Our city's prosperity and cultural future is literally at stake. Thanks for your time. Have a good day.
Thanks, Keith. Good evening, Sherry.
Good evening, Mayor. Little update on the Rotary Spaghetti Dinner. This is something that goes towards the Achievement Awards, for which we help local high school students pay some college expenses. The Spaghetti Dinner also has a silent auction, and some of the businesses get a chance to introduce themselves or get a chance to get you in the door. Thursday, April 14th, that's 17 days from now, from 5 to 8 in the evening at Bloom's by JR Designs, 503 East 9 Mile. We have decided that kids under 5 are free, no even Happy Meal. The kids under 5 are totally free, and all kids like spaghetti. Kids 5 through 10 are $5. The $10 tickets for those older than that includes a raffle ticket. So that's an extra thing that was put in since the last time you saw me here talking about this. The funds will go also to fight polio. The Rotary, with its collaboration, as it has done, as you heard from the Historical Commission, that it's done all the years, has got Rotary reduced to 4 countries around the world. In fact, a teenager who was one of our guests wanted to know what polio was. So that's pretty cool. So it's Ferndale Rotary, and we have a co-sponsor who's going to be catering in that delicious meal, and that's House by You.
Oh, great. Thank you, Sherry. Mr. Porter, good evening again.
Haven't I seen you someplace before? I just wanted to come to you tonight because of our fundraising event for OLSHA. You were a board member in the past, Dave, so you know about it. The federal government actually cut $1.3 million out of the OLSHA budget, and OLSHA provided food to over 20,000 people this year, paid for medicines, kept people in their homes by giving them loans or actually giving them advancements to cover it, and just so many other things, Head Start. I won't get into the whole detail. But with those cuts this year, this is even more important to us than it has been in the past. So if anybody would be interested in coming out and rolling a few games, it's May 1st, and you can contact OLSHA at 248-542-5860. That's 248-542-5860. We have openings in the lanes, sponsorships. I think Scott Galloway's name would look really great for $100 over the alley with the big sign for the lock, you know. Little things like that that people can do.
At Luxury Lanes, right, Bob? I don't think you mentioned
That's it, Luxury
Lanes. Right here
Lanes.
at Ferndale's own Luxury Lanes.
This is a Ferndale event. If you have questions and wonder about the value of what this does and what your money's doing, you know, OLSHA's right across the street, or the number I gave you. Give them a call. Get a team together, 4 in a team. We ask that you try to raise, each member raises $60 to $80 for that team to cover that lane, and sponsorships are available as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks for your work on that. Anyone else for public comment? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
My name is Alan Sove. I live at 1120 East Nama Road. I'd like to let the public know that we have weekly meetings for the tax millage increase. I'm opposed to it. Anybody that's concerned, you can come to my house. My house is open. You're welcome if you like. So come on down and we can discuss issues. Unlike the previous people, I don't think this is a crisis, but that's my opinion. Another problem, it's not a problem, just a little statement here, that I had a little problem with my wife. She got laid off and she got hurt, and I called my neighbors, and I received a bill for $663 to transport my wife to Beaumont. So I'm just letting you know that. I know. Is that ever going to increase?
Is it?
The bill.
Is your bill going to increase?
Yes. Is it, let's say maybe another year it'll go up to $1,000 to transport?
That's
a question for the
fire chief, yeah.
Maybe the city manager, I see, wants to address
Typically, the price of transport, and the chief can add to this if he'd like, is based upon what the federal government allows in billing for Medicare, Medicaid, and there is every year, every couple of years, there's a review of what those fees are. But our fees are based on what the federal government would approve for a similar transport under their program. And that's pretty much the basis that all the communities that I know of that bill for, that don't have a directed millage for transport, use very similar process where it's suggested the feds have approved up to blank dollars, and that's generally what the rates are. Chief, is that pretty much correct?
And it should be noted that if the millage doesn't pass, we may get out of the ambulance service, so you'll be able
Well,
to take
I also pay for Medicaid and Medicare too, so when I work, I get taxed for that, to pay for that ambulance service for the seniors. So just let everybody know.
Chief, did you want to add to that, however? Yeah.
Currently, at this time, our billers, Acumed, has recommended that we're right in the right level, and according to Blue Cross Blue Shield and HCFA, Medicare, Medicaid, there'd be no purpose in raising it at this time. We're right in the perfect collection zone, and for where we are, we're standard, so there's no intent to raise anything at this time.
Another thing is,
you got about 30 seconds left, sir?
Pardon me?
About 30 seconds? You get 3
Yes, my taxes for last year in my home were $38,866 for the previous year, the tax property tax. So I'm just letting you know that not everybody has low property taxes. Mine are high, and I know they went down a little bit, but not very much. And I'm opposed to the tax increase. And are you going to have another tax increase down the line? If this one passes?
There's no plan for that.
You don't plan on another millage increase down the line? No?
One at a time. Yeah, there's no plan for another one.
Okay.
How is your wife, by the way? Is she all right? She said you had to take her to the hospital.
Yeah, she hurt her bad, but she's okay.
Good.
The guys did a good job, by the way. They're wonderful.
Great. Thank you, sir. Anyone else for public comment? All right, let us close public comment at 8:55, and we'll go now to the consent agenda. Now, as I think you all know, items on the consent agenda are things that we on council consider routine, and we enact with one motion unless someone wants to remove one of the items. Item A is the approval of the minutes from our regular meeting of March 14, 2011. Item B has already been addressed under presentations. Item C is the approval of the contract with RDS Services, LLC, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan, and Milliman, and authorization for the interim city manager to sign said contracts. Item D is the approval to accept the installation agreement for exhaust removal systems at both fire stations. Item E is the approval of the Acumed Group billing agreement and the Acumed Group web agreement renewals. And item F is the approval of the bills and payrolls as certified by the city manager, subject to the council finance committee. Is there any items that council would like to have removed from the consent agenda?
Early on that.
That's okay.
Otherwise, a motion would be in
I
order.
would move that we adopt the consent agenda with the exception of item B as it was covered earlier in the meeting.
Support.
Moved by Baker, supported by Lennon. Is there any other questions or comments about the consent agenda? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Council members Lennon?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
And Mayor Coulter.
Yes, thank you. That item passes. Now we're on the regular agenda. Item A, consideration of ordinance 1106, an ordinance amending Chapter 16 of the Code of Ordinances to add sections 1614 through 1616.14, demonstrations on public property. This came up at our last meeting, and Dan, do you want to introduce this item for us?
Yes, I would, Your Honor.
Thank you.
At last council meeting, there was an issue with respect to modification of the special events ordinance. At that time, there was a recommendation that a separate provision of the section address utilization in public streets, sidewalks, and public property where it was a demonstration as opposed to a traditional special event as council has considered it, which is more of a fair type of scenario. There were concerns at that time expressed as it related to the definition of demonstration and concerns as it related to the permitting process associated with a demonstration. The ordinance committee, subsequent to council's meeting, did meet, have an opportunity to discuss the definition, and attempted to make modifications to the language of the definition, which would still protect and preserve the city's interest in making sure that its public property and streets and sidewalks are not unreasonably encumbered or blocked, while maintaining the with a goal of trying to balance that with citizens' rights to utilize sidewalks and streets. The definition provides that there will not be a permitting process associated with somebody who wanted to demonstrate unless there is going to be a interference or obstruction of the normal and free passage of vehicular or pedestrian traffic upon the city's street, sidewalk, or alley. As it relates to city property, demonstration, definition, and permitting process would not apply unless there was going to be utilization of city resources, electricity, or the installation of bleachers or other types of fixtures on the city property. Then there would be a permitting process required. So that proposed ordinance amendment is before you. If there's any questions with respect to the revised language, I'd certainly be happy to try and answer your questions.
Indeed, are there questions or comments from council?
My only comment was, at the last meeting, we were concerned that as drafted, although the ordinance for demonstrations was consistent with the rulings of the federal courts that cover Michigan, my concern was that it was perhaps too restrictive or placed too much of a chilling effect on folks who wanted to gather on city property to protest something, be it political or social or whatever it may be. And so I think the revisions that Dan and I worked on draw a nice distinction by saying, if you want to set up bleachers and use city electricity, then you're going to have to, go through the permitting process. If you're going to show up on City Hall's front yard and scream and yell at us while we're meeting in here, you don't need to have a permit to do that, and I think that's the way it should be. Certainly, that's what democracy is all about. So I'm very happy with these changes, and I would move that we adopt ordinance number 1106.
Support.
Moved by Galloway, supported by Piana. Are there any other comments or questions?
I just want to say nice work, Mr. Chris, getting that done in a timely fashion.
You're welcome. I would add, nice work, and Councilman Galloway as well. I think that's an important distinction, and it wasn't our intent to limit that free speech, but it certainly would have been permissible the way it was written previously. So great changes, I think. All right, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Council members Piana?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. That item passes. Next regular agenda item is consideration of Oakland County Animal Control Services. Mr. City Manager, do you want to introduce that one?
Certainly. This has been talked about previously, but basically you have a resolution which would indicate to Oakland County, if passed by the council, that our intention was to proceed with them providing this services. As you know, this was pretty much cut out of our budget. Last year, we do, and it's our recommendation that we proceed that way.
If I could just add to that.
Yes, sir.
There are certain, in discussions with the County Animal Control Department and Division, and specifically the Director, Mr. Oberth, he indicated that it was his department's suggestion that certain ordinance provisions as it related to animal control services be repealed. Additionally, he indicated that staffing with respect to his department has, I believe, been increased by some amount, and training is currently taking place with respect to his additional support staff. He suggested that should council pass this resolution, that it provide a request and give him 30 days to really get up to speed. And to the extent that council is to pass this resolution, it would be my suggestion that the ordinance, the repeal of these ordinance provisions, take effective date in 30 days. So the action as proposed would be to adopt these ordinances, but as the language in the text provides that they're effective upon publication, and just direct the clerk to publish the notice of adoption in 30 days.
So noted. So noted. And will be part of a motion if someone on council chooses to make one.
I would move that we take the action recommended in the.
Councilman Galloway.
No, it was. I thought.
Put the motion.
I'll do it. Put it on the table.
Yeah, questions after the motion and support, please. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
There was a related issue as it relates to the current utilization of the animal shelter, and the city manager just whispered whether council wishes to make part of this particular motion any issue as it relates to that utilization.
Such as proper notice to terminate.
If it's interested.
That was my question.
Okay.
Gotcha.
It was how we were going to handle that. We have an organization that has been working with the city, dealing specifically with stray animals, not any of the legal functions that Oakland County will be able to provide for us, taking some burden off of our police department. So I guess my question is, in the contract that we have with the Wags and Wishes nonprofit, what is the timeline for, is there a timeline spelled out for
30 days
notifying them? So it coincides with the 30-day notification?
There is two different timing provisions. One, if there's certain specified cause issues, and then it's 7 days, or at will by either party upon 30 days notice.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That was my question. Should that be added as well to the motion?
You can add it as part of this motion, or you can have it as a separate motion at the discretion of council.
Thank you. Glad I asked it before he made the motion.
Let's make that a separate motion. It's a separate issue. Let's talk about it separately. Let's go ahead, Councilman Galloway, with your motion that I believe you started.
I would move that we take the action recommended on regular agenda item number 8B as prepared in the memo from our city attorney and chief of police to council, and that we provide and that we take that action according to the timeline suggested by the city attorney, 30 days.
Support.
Moved by Galloway, supported by Baker.
Is that sufficient for the clerk attorney?
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah. After the 30 days, what happens to the animals currently in the shelter? Do they just become the ownership of Oakland County? Or Wags and Wishes is a nonprofit and can still function as a nonprofit in another facility? And so I was wondering, the animals that have not been adopted out within the 30-day period, where do they go?
I believe that would be worked out with the county unless either the chief or DPW have a comment on that, but I'm sure every effort would be made to place them prior to that time frame.
Chief.
Good evening, Your Honor. I believe that ultimately we would have that responsibility, but my belief is that Wags and Wishes would retain ownership of those, or ownership, if that's the word to use, of those animals and try to take control of them. That would be my suggestion. I believe that that's what they would try to do. But ultimately, if the animals were abandoned in that shelter, they would become our responsibility. And that being with the county, they would take that over, I'm sure.
And because we're in relationship with the county now, that
Correct.
becomes the county's responsibility. And then, Chief, while you're here, just on this in general, I know you've had some discussions. You've been involved in this potential contract with Oakland County. You're comfortable with it? You're comfortable with the services it provide and the way your departments will interact and
The way that I've talked with Mr. Olbrich and his folks, the way that the contract has been laid out, time will tell. But if they fulfill what they say they fulfill, I believe this is a huge advantage to the citizens here and to my officers as well, relieving a lot of pressure of the things that WAGs could not provide for us, and that our officers were still engaged in doing that. They're kind of spoiled by having Tom Waller doing for us in the past. So yeah, we've picked up a lot of those duties that we're familiar with because we had to do them after hours on weekends anyway, but it would be a welcome relief.
Good, thank you. Other comments or questions? Yes?
I just want to add to it that there's a general satisfaction on the part of many of the other communities that I've spoken to about this with the services the county provides. So.
Yeah, I would just add some background. It was when I was a county commissioner when we discovered the issue that the county was providing animal control services in some communities for free. In other communities, they were being charged, and they tried to charge us in Ferndale. And it was this odd, and I'm not faulting the county, it's just the way the program developed over many, many decades, but there was a true inequity. And so I give the county credit for saying, after we brought it to their attention, and Chief Collins, you weren't chief at the time, but you were the one that originally discovered this discrepancy, but the county stepped up and said, you know what?
My secretary. I want to give credit where credit's due. She's the one that first discovered it.
But the county stepped up and said, you know what? You're right. We're not treating all communities equally. And so they worked for almost a year to develop a policy that they could implement policy-wide, and I think we're one of the first communities to take advantage of it, but I know we won't be the last because it is free to Ferndale, and it's a great service for us. So I'm very supportive of this.
Well, it's not free to Ferndale. It's part of the taxes we all pay to the county.
That's
it's a nice return on some service from the county, in my opinion.
Well said. Very true. Other questions or comments before we vote? Yes, Councilwoman Piana.
I would like to ask the city clerk's office to draft up a resolution in support of Wags and Wishes for stepping up at a time when the city was decreasing services and send them on their way for their service to the city for the short time that we had a contract with them. I just want to be clear that Wags and Wishes can still operate fully as a nonprofit, providing these services elsewhere in the city. So,
I think that's very appropriate. I don't think that requires a motion, right? Madam Clerk, you can just hear that. Very appropriate. Any other comments or questions before we vote? All right, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Council members Piana?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. That item passes. So now it would be appropriate to address more directly the Wags to Wishes contract that we have. And I wanted to do this separately because to make the point, frankly, Councilwoman, that you made, which is this is a wonderful nonprofit that stepped up when Ferndale did not have the ability to offer animal control services. And they stepped up and provided us a wonderful service. And Dan, as you said, there's a 7-day clause if there was issues with their service. There is not. I want to be very clear that we need to terminate our formal agreement with them because that's required by Oakland County. Oakland County requires that we get out of the animal control business, that we give this up entirely, including the relationship with Wags to Wishes. There may be a relationship that Oakland County is able to have with them, but it's not one that Ferndale is able to have. So I think a motion to formally give notice to terminate that agreement is appropriate, but I want it to be very clear that it's not for performance issues, and we're very grateful for the work that they've done. So a motion would be in order.
I would move that we terminate the contract with Wags to Wishes, giving them 30 days notice pursuant to the contract with them.
Support.
Moved by Galloway, supported by Lennon. Is there any further discussion on the Wags to Wishes agreement?
My question is, would there be any reason to include in the councilman's motion a statement about the animals that are currently under their care, that they have the option to remain, to keep them under their care, rather than surrender them to Oakland County if they so choose? Do we need to formally state that? I think that has been a concern of theirs, and do we need to
I'm looking at
address
our attorney. Dan, do you think
I'm not
that's
sure if
required
it's
under the
necessary.
agreement? Or
I don't think that's necessary at this point. Certainly, it should come to light once the notice is provided. If they feel like they need additional assurances, then that could be addressed at one of the council meetings in April.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from council? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Baker?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. That item passes. That concludes our regular agenda. Next item on our agenda is council liaison reports. 8 Mile Boulevard Association, we got a very in-depth report from them last meeting, so I don't think that's necessary. Michigan Suburbs Alliance, anything, Councilwoman Piana, to report?
No, at this time.
Not at this time. Great. South Oakland County Mayors Association, I know I have a meeting coming up that's being hosted by the wonderful city of Southfield, so I'll be attending that. SUMCOG.
Yes. Last Friday or Thursday, I went to the SUMCOG General Assembly representing the city of Ferndale, as well as our interim city manager was also representing Ferndale. And the interesting aspect of this whole General Assembly was the announcement of sort of stand up for Southeast Michigan. SUMCOG received $2 million quite a few months ago to do a regional visioning for Southeast Michigan, and this was sort of the kickoff event to identify what are some of the measures we can identify as a region that says we are meeting some of the objectives and goals listed in our regional vision. So this is a sort of a kickoff of a 2-year process, and they engaged everyone at the General Assembly. We got into roundtables and talked about some outcomes and how we measure those outcomes for the region and achieving how we want to grow and in terms of transportation, economic development, desirable communities, a whole range of topics that this grant provided by the federal government is paying for. So I'll be reporting out on our progress over the next year.
Great, thank you. Transportation Riders United. I don't recall who our liaison to that is, actually. Maybe we should drop that one.
I don't know that we have one formally.
Woodward Avenue Action Association. Nothing tonight.
Not tonight.
All right. That would bring us to call to council. Call to council this evening. We'll start with our police chief. Chief Collins, anything further to? Thank you, sir. Fire Chief Sullivan. Welcome again.
Mayor, council, a couple things. We did have the Hazelhurst fire a couple weeks ago, as recognized by the police department for the corrections officer at the home. He actually did save that woman's life. She probably would not have left the building. I'd like to remind everybody, when discarding smoking materials after people have visited or had a party at your house, be extremely careful, because in my tenure as chief, that's 2 houses that have burnt completely up because people have incorrectly discarded smoking materials. Get them wet, let them sit, then discard them into the trash. But that's 2 homes burnt down by, or burned up severely due to just inappropriately discarded smoking material. Sunday we had a fire in Royal Township on Parkside. Another home completely destroyed. Luckily no one home, no one hurt. We had a full complement of 8 that day with the assistance of Hazel Park. Everything went well, and we brought the fire under control, but again, they lost everything. So again, we're under investigation. We're not sure what the cause of that fire was to date. So with Oakland County and Fire Marshal Batten, we're still looking at it. And then last, I'd like to just bring up that we're looking at a bid process to save the city staff some time and energy through the Florida Association of Fire Chiefs, Sheriffs, and Counties. And hopefully it'll be something we can look through a few hiccups. We need a little bit more research before we delve into it, but we'll bring it back to council as maybe a fast track for us to get onto the aerial process and pick our bid and get our truck into the city. That's all I have. Any questions?
No, but thanks, Chief. Great reminders and great work. Thank you. Julie, anything from the Parks and Rec tonight? No. All right. I saw Byron. Byron Fertites, DPW.
Yard waste collection begins Monday, so you can put it out with your regular collection, craft bags, or if you want to put them in a regular garbage container, make sure you can have a sticker on there. You can always get the sticker down at the DPW, and I think they used to have them up here at City Hall, but they still do. And try and separate it from the rubbish itself, so because it's a separate truck that comes by.
That must mean spring is here, although we don't feel it yet.
No, but fortunately, a lot of times they'll get it out early because the weather breaks and it gets warmer. But it's been obviously cold. But it is going to start Monday, and I'm sure the weather is supposed to get a little nicer this weekend.
Great, thank you. City Clerk, Sherilyn.
I do. I just wanted to let you know that the State Bureau of Elections has established a special advisory committee on election training issues, and I have been asked to be a member of that committee. We're going to be developing future plans for training programs for election officials statewide. Our first task is going to be to create a DVD online training program that covers current pressing election issues. So we will begin meeting next month.
Excellent. Great. City Manager Mark Wallenweber.
Just add a couple things. One to what the fire chief said. And one of the grants that we received, again, that the department wrote and the chief was responsible for this, was to purchase a new aerial truck ladder, which would save, really, I think it's, what, $675,000 out of almost $1 million project. So that's underway. We'll be bringing that back to council soon. And I want to take this opportunity to, I've been here a couple of months, minus the time I spent in Florida, but I want to say how excited I am to work here with such a quality staff that you have, and certainly that's echoed by the wisdom shown by the City Council as well. I think it's been my pleasure to work with you, each of you, and I am very impressed, and I hope the residents recognize the time commitments that the council members put in and the quality of staff people that you have from directors on down, because they're a pleasure to work with. I've worked in 6 different cities, and nowhere have I found as top-notch folks as you have here. Even though we had superstars in other areas, you really have a great collection of staff people, and it's been my pleasure to work with them. They've updated me on so many projects, and many of the things that council had in their goals and objectives from last year are really either have been accomplished by the staff and under Bob's leadership or are currently underway. And as you know, Jane Marie, with all the duties that's been added in her case, is involved in Gadsby training this week and still has prepared stuff, and will be talking about a bunch of things and a process for budget come Wednesday night. But those, we've seen, and people have brought to our attention some of the material that's been passed out by those that are opposed to the millage, and I just want to indicate, based on average numbers, and these are, again, no one lives in the average house and has all the average stuff, but with the reduction from last year to this year alone, and the 3 mil, which is what it would be limited to in the first year, if you were the average homeowner, you actually saved $68 after the increase went through. So, I mean, you can use numbers a whole bunch of different ways, but I think the last thing I would say is in the one flyer about the SAFER grant, it's incorrect to point out, among other things, that you could use the money to balance the budget, because if you accept the grant, you're accepting the employees back, and it's a net no effect on the budget, even though there are extra costs for a certain amount. We get to apply for fringes, but so it's really incorrect to folks to say that using the $871,000 or whatever the actual dollar amount was is just offset by the expense of those employees. It can't be used to fund where we would be short. So that's it for tonight.
Thank you very much. Dan.
Very briefly, I did receive a visit this afternoon from Mr. Wolfson, who dropped off material with respect to a possible development parking plan that he has. I have not had an opportunity to go through it yet, but I will be going through it and will be providing an update to staff and council.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Baker.
Jeannie Davis brought it up earlier, but I've got a photocopy here of an envelope that came in the mail to my friend Nancy Gettert, and anyone who lives in Ferndale knows that Nancy Gettert is certainly an informed voter. Nancy Gettert, when she saw this return address in the City of Ferndale's font saying important information, City of Ferndale, immediately thought that it was something from the City of Ferndale. This is not from the City of Ferndale. This is a piece that was put out intentionally to deceive voters into opening it. This has nothing to do with the City of Ferndale. We did not produce this. We would never mail out something like this. When you open it, you see that it was put out by a campaign committee. No individual names. It does give the name of the campaign committee. These scare tactics aimed at seniors are so infuriating to me, that an absentee voter ballot piece would be put out specifically to intimidate and to confuse our seniors is just, it makes me so angry I have no words. Please know, voters who received absentee ballots, who've applied for absentee ballots, you will likely receive this deceptive piece. Know that this did not come from the City of Ferndale. That's it.
Thank you. Councilman Lennon.
Just briefly, the David Lennon Memorial Scholarship Fund applications are now out. So if you're a graduating senior from Ferndale High School, please see your counselor for one of those application forms. There's a handsome amount given out to several people, so I encourage all to apply. On a sour note, a long-time Ferndale resident, God, probably 60, 70 years, John Weir, raised 11 children through the St. James Church through Ferndale, passed away a few days ago, and his funeral is today. There will be a resolution forthcoming, but he was a well-respected man about community, and I know Kevin knows him well, and Chief Collins knows him well, too, so, and Byron. The whole family, actually. So, actually, he was the grandfather of the football player we honored last meeting, T.J. Lang. So, and I just wanted to give my condolences to the family on that, and that's all I have right now.
Thank you. Councilwoman Piana.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to remind people that the city has started its budget discussions, and we're meeting every Wednesday for special council meetings at 6 o'clock here in the chambers, and that the agenda for each meeting is online. And this Wednesday, that the department heads will be going over some of their budget proposals, looking at what was it, 15 to 20%, or was it 15 to 20% cuts in their budgets. I also wanted to request the city manager and the fire chief to explore an idea that was proposed by former Mayor Bob Porter back in December to look at insurance rates. I had for if the millage doesn't pass, what happens to local insurance rates if your police and fire, there are reductions into your police and fire. And I would request that you talk to Deputy City Manager in Southfield, Fred Zorn, and the Fire Chief in Southfield, who are looking at what would happen to their ISO rating if there are cuts in police and fire. And if there are cuts, you may not be paying an increase in tax, but you may be redirecting those monies to an increase in your insurance rates, whether they're home or auto. So I was wondering what the impact on that would be in the event that the millage did not pass. So if you can explore those solutions, I was directed to say you should talk to the fire chief in Southfield. I don't know his name.
I'm sure the chief does, but I know Fred Zorn, so I'd be happy to talk to him as well, or
Okay.
the administrator there.
And then if you could report back to our budget, in one of our budget meetings, about what that impact could be.
That concludes yours?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilman Galloway.
Thank you, Mayor. Last Thursday, the Ferndale Education Foundation had a wonderful fundraiser at Boogie Fever. House Bayou provided food there. It was great. And the flowers were by Bloom, so the place looked very nice. Ferndale Education Foundation, for those of you who don't know, is a nonprofit that raises money so that teachers in the Ferndale schools can do extra things for the kids that maybe the budgets don't allow for. And certainly with the drastic cuts coming from Lansing to the K-12 budgets, groups like the Ferndale Education Foundation will be more important than ever. Look for opportunities to give them some money during the coming year. On the millage issue, or the Headley override, I guess, as Councilwoman Pianis stated, we're currently just getting started under the budget process. This is a process that's going to go through the rest of March, April, and into May. There's lots of opportunities for people to share their ideas with City Council, although it's been my experience that people like to complain but never offer solutions. There are meetings every single Wednesday from now until through the first week in May, and if someone's got an idea how they can give support to us up here as we try to develop a budget in this very tough time, by all means come down rather than just putting things on your blog or signing on to Facebook or Patch to complain about what we're doing. But unfortunately, it's been my experience that no one does show up. And so, you really can't understand all the difficult decisions we make until you get into the numbers and look at them. So if you haven't done that yet, all the information's online. The website, the city's website, has all the information that Jackie was talking about that they looked at and studied over weeks. And we're going to develop two budgets. And one budget is going to assume that the Headley override passes. And if that passes, there may be some, cuts around the edges. But I think people will still recognize city government. We're also going to pass a budget, or we're going to develop a budget assuming that the Headley override doesn't pass. And that's going to result in probably 20 layoffs, and you're going to see significant service reductions. And there's just no way around it. So when everyone comes up here and tells me how much they love the police, and they love the fire department, and they love the DPW, and what a great job everyone up here does, but then out of the other side of their mouth talks about not supporting this Headley override, you really just can't do both. You can't be supportive of the police department while encouraging, budgets that are going to take people off the streets. So, but maybe somebody has an idea how to do that we haven't been able to figure out over the last 10 years, and with countless hours through the Citizens Advisory Board. So. Every Wednesday, 6 o'clock, we're here, and come share your ideas with us. And with that, I guess I'll pass it on to you, Mayor.
All right. Well, speaking of Lansing and the cuts that are coming there, one of the things that was really disappointing is Governor Snyder proposed incentivizing communities to do consolidations and best practices, but it looks like the way it's been proposed, if you've already done them, you won't get credit for them, and that would really penalize a city like Ferndale. And so I just want you to know that former Mayor Bob Porter and myself are going up to Lansing on Thursday morning, and we're going to testify and try to lobby to make sure the legislators understand that you shouldn't penalize communities who have done the exact same kind of best practices that they're trying to encourage other communities to do now. So we're going to go up there and try to make that fight on Thursday morning. Thursday evening, just to let folks know, I will be back here and at Dino's Lounge at 5:30 p.m., and we're going to do what has traditionally in the past been a mayor's State of the City address. We're going to do it a little bit more fun this time. It's going to start with a family feud with some Ferndale facts and figures and fun, and then I'm going to give just a small little address about what's going on in the city. So if anyone's interested in coming to that, it's a chamber event. I think it's a fundraiser for them, so it's $15, but it's Thursday evening, 5:30 at Dino's. And finally, I don't want to reiterate the things that have been said about the millage campaign. I was really disappointed to see the envelope in particular. You know, both sides can have it out. We got a campaign going on. I'm used to campaigns. That's fine. But the envelope was deceiving, and it's deceiving to the extent that it implies that it's from the city of Ferndale. And so as the mayor, I'm going to reiterate what council has said, which is that is not from the city of Ferndale. It is not appropriate for the city of Ferndale to take a side in the millage, one way or the other. We wouldn't waste a penny of your tax dollars supporting or opposing the millage. Now, I support the millage, and a lot of folks do for a lot of reasons that have been stated. But I want to just reiterate the fact that that piece of mail did not come from here, and I encourage you to get all of the facts when you see that. So with that, I believe our council meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Adjourned. Closed session?
That was for ways and wishes.
No, we don't need to.
No, okay.
Sorry,
We don't
we
need
didn't
to.
need to do that.
Yeah, I can sign those contracts.
Incorporated in the motion.